Have you ever wondered why you can't rank up in Brawl Stars? Being hard stuck in ranked is really frustrating, but also really easy to overcome. In this video, I'm going to go over the 13 best tips that you can use to rank up so much easier in Brawl Stars. I'm also going to give a little bit of a drafting guide since a lot of people need it. I'm Mystically 19, and I've hit Legendary or Masters every single season depending on how much I play. If you want to do the same, make sure you watch this whole video to find out the best tips on how to rank up in Brawl Stars. Our first tip is to have a team in Brawl Stars. You need to be communicating with your teammates and playing with the same people so you can have the consistent team chemistry that you need, and you can be playing with people who are your same skill level or better than you. I play with these two people throughout the whole video, and I actually play with them a decent amount, and this really helps because we can just go on a call and talk about our game plan for this game, and the communication really helps us when it comes to drafting, banning, picking our brawlers, and just playing the game overall. Your teammates can also give you some really good feedback if you need it, depending on places you need improvement, and you will never go into a Legendary or Masters match without expecting the other team to have already teamed up. You will very rarely find people solo queuing in Masters and Legendary. If you can find teammates that also are a bit higher ranked than you can also get that nice boost so you can rank up faster and play less games overall. At one point, using the ranked boost I got from last season and having teammates who are higher ranked than me, I was getting 300 elo a match, which meant I only had to win 2 matches per rank to rank up. The teammates I played with here are very consistent in their skill, unlike the randoms that you'll get, because usually you'll get either super good people or super bad people, and most of the time it's someone like a Power 9 Edgar. Moving into tip number 2, and yes, this is kind of going in chronological order, is maxing out one brawler at a time. Many people don't know this, but this is actually very important when you are playing Brawl Stars, because the difference between a Power 9 brawler and a Power 11 brawler is insane. Your teammates will like you a lot better too, and if you don't have enough brawlers to play after Diamond, I still recommend maxing out one brawler at a time instead of just rushing the Power 9s, because it's better to have a lot of good people at Power 11 than just rush mid-brawlers at Power 9. Along with this, make sure you are maxing out the right brawlers who are good right now, because you don't want to max out a brawler who is soon either getting a nerf or is just currently bad. If you need a guide on who to upgrade, make sure you check out some tier lists by pro players. You can even check out my tier lists, but just make sure you know who's good right now. And this will lead into our next tip as well, because having the knowledge of who's good right now will also help you draft better. Moving into tip number 3, we have drafting. Up above, I sorted the picks: first pick, second pick, third pick, fourth pick, fifth pick, and sixth pick. This is obviously based on what pick you're going to have, based on where the coin is, and that'll change a little bit. Before you even worry about these picks, make sure you're looking at the map and the game mode. Brawlers are heavily dependent on the map, so make sure you're looking on that too. The map is super important, and the game mode is too. Just because a brawler might be good in Brawl Ball on one map doesn't mean they're going to be good on the other map. Don't always pick your favorite brawler either. Make sure you're picking what your team needs, and we're going to go over that here now. If you have first pick, you probably have the worst pick because you don't know what your enemies are going to have, but on the bright side, you don't have to wait for everyone to pick, so that's kind of good. Think of the brawler you're going to play, and then ban his counter. This is about the most useful thing you can do, and I would argue that you should probably play whoever's the best on this map. Don't try to go for a counter on the other team because you don't know what they're going to have, and just play someone who's going to be the best utility on the map that you're playing on. For second pick, you're going to be kind of in the same scenario, but if the other brawler that the first pick had has a clear counter, then you want to pick them. But if not, just try to play the best utility that you can on your team and ban your counter if you have one. For third pick, do not pick the same category as what second pick picked. If he's going for utility on the team, you should probably either play support or a tank. As third pick, if second pick didn't do it, your main job is to counter whatever first pick picked. This is really important because now your team can have utility and you're countering their utility brawler. If second pick did counter first pick, make sure you pick someone who's of good utility and gets the objective done fast. For fourth pick, make sure you are protecting first pick and you are countering the other team at the same time if possible. For fifth pick, you are kind of cleanup crew. Whatever your team is missing, whether that's support, tank, damage, or somehow utility, which you should already have, make sure you pick them, and you're kind of just wrapping up your team together and having a good composition overall. If you have sixth pick, you have the best pick in the game. You know what everyone else is playing. You know exactly who to play. If you can counter their whole other team, do it. If you can get the objective done super fast because they can't counter you, do it. Think about who you're going to pick and think about if they can counter you or not, because this can be really important to getting the objective done fast. If they have no range, go someone who has super long range, and then you can just destroy their whole other team, especially if the map's more open. Don't do this on a map with a lot of walls. Sixth pick is the most important pick, so don't waste it. Moving into tip number 4, know the brawler you are playing. Know if they are support, tank, damage dealer, etc. This is extremely important because you can't draft properly if you don't know what every single brawler does in the game. It's important to get a good knowledge or general idea of what every single brawler does in the game so you can know if they're going to counter you or not. Try to memorize each brawler and what they do so that way you can't get countered and you can just counter them right back. If you master this, you are already better than a lot of Diamond and Mythic players in Brawl Stars. Tip number 5 is really similar. Know the map you are playing on. Every single brawler is super map dependent. That's why Brawl Stars releases so many brawlers that are very specific, because they want to make the best brawlers for every single map, so that way no two matches are the same and the game is just more fun to play. This also leaves a lot more competitiveness in the game, a lot of variation to who you're playing so you're not always playing the same person. You don't want to play a sharpshooter if there's no open area. If it's super open, don't play a thrower, etc. This is pretty easy to get down. Just look at the map you're playing on by pressing the eye icon next to the game mode and it'll show you the map you're playing on. Tip number 6 is to play smart. Most maps are divided into thirds. A left lane, a middle lane, and a right lane. Your team should overall be kind of playing lanes. It's okay to cross into each other's lanes, but you should overall be lining up with the brawler that you counter because the other team is probably playing lanes too. The only exception to this is probably hot zone, but even then, the brawlers do kind of play lanes in a certain way. If the other team has area damage or has Fang, you are going to get team wiped. You can probably see a few examples of this. We just got team wiped earlier because we all just kind of bunched up. It will get you killed and you won't be able to complete the objective as fast. Tip number 7 consists of just minor tweaks, such as the idea of pinching, which is when the other team is down 1 or 2 brawlers, and you and your teammate go at a brawler at 2 different angles so that way the other brawler has nowhere to go and you end up getting a free kill. This helps lower their team, and if you are in a position where you can do this, it'll greatly help your odds at winning the little round that you're playing. And I highly recommend watching videos on how to pinch. It's pretty easy, the concept is pretty easy, but if you don't know, then watch a few more videos on how. Switching lanes is another thing important to keep in mind. Make sure you and your teammates are switching lanes and you're not just crossing over into theirs and having 2 people in a lane. This idea is also pretty easy, so I'm not going to go into much detail with it. At tip number 8, we have watching yourself play and watching pros play. When I say watching yourself play, I mean looking at your replays because this is actually really important. In the moment, you might just blame everything on your teammates. I do the same too, but sometimes you might realize that you were actually the problem in a scenario and you might realize that you could have done something a lot better in that moment. I do this all the time and I see pros play as well, and they show me little texts that I didn't know existed and show me better things I could have done in moments where I was in the same scenario as them. Now, it could genuinely be your teammate's fault, but I doubt that's the case every single time. Unless you're me. All my teammates are horrible, except for the ones that I actually team up with. At tip number 9, we have the art of aiming and dodging. And yes, I say art because this does take a while to master. Aiming is obviously different for every brawler, so make sure you just know how fast your projectiles go, so that way you know how close to aim your shots to them. And when it comes to dodging, be as unpredictable as you possibly can. You cannot keep running in the same direction, and you can't have a pattern to your dodging either. Enemies will easily find out about this, and you'll end up dying, just like I did there. This is especially important in games like Knockout, where deaths are actually vital, and you need to know how to easily get out of 1v1 scenarios and not just tense up every single time you're in one. Once you learn how to dodge properly, you will actually be a much better player, and I would argue that this is one of the most important things that you could learn. You will play much more calmly, and you will actually be a much better player, not just in the aiming and dodging section, but in the gameplay section as well. You can focus on other things such as knowledge a lot easier. At tip number 10, we have do not constantly aggro. This means that if you always think that pushing is the right move, you're just wrong. Sometimes you need to wait for your teammates to respawn. That is one of the tips in Brawl Stars. Other times you just need to keep your range, especially whenever a team is falling back. If you press them, they actually have more range than you do because of the projectile speed. If you're in a 1v3 scenario, by not pushing and just keeping them back by keeping range, you can actually have time for your teammates to respawn, and you can overall act as if you're defending a whole team just by yourself. Even if you don't pick off any kills, it still does a lot for your team because you're giving them time to respawn and you guys can regroup. At tip number 11, we have playing your brawler's role. This seems kind of simple, but if you're a damage dealer, make sure you're trying to get kills. If you're a thrower, stay behind walls. Keep a wall between you and your opponent at all times. If you're a support, you want to be in a triangle with your teammates so you're slightly behind them and they're both up, so that way you can support them and attack at the same time. If you're a tank, you want to make sure that you're in the front and tanking shots for your teammates. If you're an assassin, make sure you're picking off kills. And if you're a controller, make sure you're pushing other brawlers back on the other team so that way your team can complete the objective faster. Tip number 12 is actually a more mental tip, which is to not rage. Raging will overall just make you play way stupider. You'll just want to aggro everything, your ego will get to you, and then you'll just get even more mad because you're making stupid mistakes and dying every single time. You gotta remember that it's just a game sometimes, and playing with teammates actually helps because you don't really want to get mad in front of your teammates, and they'll keep you in check. Now, tip number 13 is the best one, because once you have mastered these, you can now just be toxic. And you can blame your teammates for everything since you already know how to play ranked now and you watched my guide. So yeah, you can just have fun now. Make sure you make other people mad as well who don't know how to control their anger. And just be the best player that you can be. If you enjoyed this video and it helped you, make sure you like and subscribe. I'll see you guys in the next video. Here's a code for 3 free presents.